Perfect. Say we're here.
Welcome. So just welcome everybody.
Okay. You can welcome them too.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 26th reorganizational meeting of the Hampstead School Board. And I'd like to ask Melissa to please call the roll.
Sure. Caitlin Parnell,
Here.
David Smith,
Here.
James Sweeney,
Here.
Karen Yosenka,
Here.
and Pinkerton Academy Student Liaison, Emma Johnston.
Here.
Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Roxanne Wilson.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Dave if you would help us with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the reorganizational meeting of the school board, so I'm sitting here for just a small bit of time. It's customary for us to thank our outgoing members and to welcome incoming. So we want to say thank you again to Jason Cipriano, who this is his first meeting after, 6 years? Almost 6 years. So we will miss him and wish him well in his new endeavors. We also want to welcome David Smith. Thank you for being here. And give you an opportunity to just say some introductory remarks or comments for the sake of the audience and anyone at home.
All right. Wasn't prepared for this, but I'll try to wing it. First, thank you, the community, for voting me in. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing what I can as part of the team here. Hopefully, with my background in various aspects from the military all the way through recently in working at New Balance and data governance, I can, lend my utilities here to the team and see what we can do to build up on the community.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming on board and willing to help.
Yep.
So here, this is the part where we do nominations for the chair, and I would like to take nominations for the chair, and as part of the procedure, we do 3 times through in terms of nominations, just to be clear that everybody has an opportunity to put a name in. So I'm going to ask for nominations now. It does not require a second. And I would, as soon as we elect the chair, they will take over in this role, and I'll return over to there. So I'd like to recognize Karen Yosenka for a nomination for chair.
I would like to nominate Caitlin Parnell.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for chair? I'm going to ask a second time. Any other nominations for chair? And the third time. Any other nominations for chair? Okay, seeing there's no other nominations, we will take a vote. If you could, by hand, just indicate that your vote for Caitlin Parnell as chair of the Hampstead School Board. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So the vote is 5-0, yes. Caitlin, you are now the board chair, and thank you very much, and you're now going to be taking over this seat. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you to my fellow board members. And we'll move right along here. We are next going to elect a vice chair. So I'm going to call for nominations for the vice chair position. Can I do that? I'd like to nominate Karen Yosenka for vice chair. do it 3 times?
No.
No. Okay.
Do it
can-
anyways.
you can
You're the
ask-
chair.
You can ask for any other nominations, and,
Do we have any other nominations?
okay,
Okay, so we vote.
show of hands.
Show of hands for Karen Usanka for vice chair.
Okay. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Do we have any other election of officers that we need to do?
I don't think so, it's just a placeholder.
Okay. Okay, so next we have appointments for the 2018-19 school year. Can I have a motion for the recommendation to allow the superintendent or their designee to seek legal counsel when necessary and with the firm most appropriate?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Can I ask what that means?
Yes.
Just to understand.
Discussion?
Yes, discussion, sorry. We'll get there.
Okay.
Oh,
Dr.
no,
Wilson?
I'm just saying discussion time. Now, David had some questions.
I was just wondering what that means, just to understand what,
There's many times that we have to seek advice from legal counsel. Our legal counsel of record is Drummond Whitson. They have a pretty wide breadth of legal lawyers that work for them. So for special education, for if there's any property or real estate, for personnel, there's always someone there that we go to in terms of expertise.
okay,
But we also, at times, may need to go to another council for whatever reason. And usually it's determined at the SAU whether or not it has to be done.
okay.
But it gives us the opportunity to seek that without having to wait for, especially for emergency situations.
One thing that's ongoing right now, though, is even though Drummond Woodson handles a lot of our things, and you'll see them come on board when we work with contracts and teacher contracts. However, we also use Wade Lestar and Peters, Dean Eggert. He comes on board to help us out if there's something that Drummond Woodson is conflicted with, because they also at times represent the SAU and the Timberlane Regional Board.
Okay.
And if he's conflicted, we have to have our own attorney.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
No.
Okay, can we have a vote? All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, next we have appointments for school board clerk. Melissa Post has been doing this for us, and can I have a motion to recommend Melissa Post to continue as school board clerk?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, just I think she's done a wonderful job. I think we should keep her around for a while.
I second that emotion.
Please stay.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, next we have representatives and delegates. So this is for the New Hampshire School Board Association delegate. I know in the past this has been Kathleen, it's also been Jason, so we don't have anyone right now who has done it before. Dr. Wilson, can you let us know what that would be required?
Yeah, the School Boards Association meets, throughout the year, and often they have an assembly, where the delegates would come and learn information and be able to vote on resolutions. The resolutions are those things that, that their beliefs going forward, and so the delegate is really the person who is your liaison to the School Boards Association and that whole process of resolutions.
Does anyone have a particular interest in this? Or we'll draw straws?
When do they meet and how often?
I think they meet yearly. I don't think they meet any more than that. The delegate assembly is usually, I was thinking it was somewhere in the fall, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah.
But we can get that information.
I think
It's not a heavy lifting job, but it is something that They just want to know who's connected from the school board. If you want to fill it at a later time, you can certainly do that, get more information.
I think we need a date so we can see who's going to be
Okay.
available.
Okay, so we can put that, we'll put this aside for now.
For the next meeting, try, see if we get more information there for you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we have appointments for Assistant Treasurer. Can I have a motion to recommend Deb Highfield, who is currently the Assistant Treasurer, correct?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
And last, we have appointment for truant officer for the 2018-19 school year. Again, I believe this is someone who's currently in the position. So I'd be looking for a motion to appoint Officer Scott Randell.
Yeah. So moved.
Second?
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list, bonding of the school district officer. What I'm looking for here is a motion for a recommendation to bond the treasurer and assistant treasurer as required by statute and the Department of Revenue Administration regulations.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, designation of bank depository. We need a motion to appoint TD Bank as the district bank.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, next we have some annual policies and procedures, which are in your packets.
Yeah, Mr. Dow can help with any of those.
Okay. Mr. Dodd, do you want to speak to these for us?
The Cliff Notes. first.
Yeah, right.
Not much
So
to say.
we have investment, risk management policy, and controls over expenditures of funds procedure.
So I will make it brief. Your investment policy, which is DFA. I'll be frank on this policy. We really don't have such a surplus or excess of funds that we typically engage in any sort of investing in the first place. If we were to have that, we do have some guidelines as to what those requirements would be. And I think that if you look under objectives, number one, safety of principal is foremost objective in this policy. We currently invest, we currently earn interest in our depository TD Bank, and although interest rates have not been phenomenally great, our rate of return has increased because we've made some adjustments at our bank, which has allowed us to get more of that, realize more of that in actual revenues to the district. Our investment or our money that's with TD Bank right now is fully collateralized through another bank, so we don't invest outside of TD. We have our cash accounts. We don't have a money market. We earn some interest on it. We don't require payment from from the town. The town, when they get their twice yearly tax bill revenue in, Harold Williams, treasurer for the town, does the investing on his end and does a fairly good job with it. So next policy was EI, which is risk management. If you have any questions on this, let me know. We have, our risk carrier is Primex, and most of our risk management is handled through Primex. I'm going to be explaining that a little bit more to you later on during the regular business meeting. So should you have any questions on that policy, that lays out what our procedures are and what our policy is on that and what we should be maintaining for insurance. I'll discuss that with you a little later on in more detail. So I have some, the procedure or controls over expenditure of funds. For the benefit of Dave, because you're newer, we, in In my office, we go through the procedures that you'll see here. I'll let you read those on your own. If you have any questions, certainly you can let me know. Where the board comes in is when we prepare our vouchers for payment, we typically have a board representative come in and review what we're going to be paying prior to the board meeting. So what you'll see being passed around now, I think, theoretically, would be our accounts payable and perhaps a couple payroll vouchers in there as well. And that represents the total vendor payments that we're making, and there are detailed invoices behind them. We don't bring those in with us. It would be untidy and clumsy. So those are available for inspection at any time, and we typically do have someone who's nominated in that role. And I believe that we've changed these up a bit to add some additional controls in place from previous years. So if you wanted to take a look and see what those changes have been, you certainly can. On page 2, what the signing requirements are for our vouchers, for payment, for SAU from the school districts from each respective school district, summer policies, and that sort of thing. You'll also see some business policies relating to our account reconciliations, monthly reporting procedures, which you'll have a monthly reporting packet that I can go over with you as well. These have been updated and really they're only a month or two old, well, from January, so 3 months old. These were some procedures recommended by audit. Good sound policy, I put them in place, they're documented, we know what they are. If you have any questions, let me know on those.
I have a question.
Certainly.
Risk management, that was just reviewed last year, so I'm assuming that's fine. I just have a question on investment. That was revised in 14, and we typically go through policies every 5 years, so this should be coming up. So I guess I was just wondering if you have any input or anything that the policy committee should be aware of, any changes that you think need to be made to how we're actually doing the work now
Right,
compared to 5 years ago?
And I think that the things that are important to me are captured from a fiduciary standpoint, are captured in the policy right now. Safety of principal is foremost. Liquidity of investment portfolio is in there. And if you see at the bottom of number 3, and these are just highlights for you that I think are good in our policy. If they were not here, I'd be recommending them. But at the bottom of, under objectives 3, return on investment is of secondary importance compared to the safety and liquidity objectives described above. So as a general proposition, we're seeing prudence being called out, and system of internal controls under number 3. The only thing that I might suggest is that if we move outside of TD Bank offers us a fully collateralized option on our current holdings with that bank, which means that if the bank fails, we get our FDIC protection up to $250,000. Beyond that, our balances are seldom below that. Beyond that, we have a letter of credit from a bank that TD engages with, and that bank, that letter of credit is sufficient to cover our balances in the bank. So I don't anticipate that if it were to happen, but if TD Bank were to fail, for example, the letter of credit would be authorized and the funds would be made whole by this asset-laden, this third-party asset-laden bank that has nothing to do with TD. When we get into investing with third parties, we don't always get the benefit of that collateralization. And there is some return that you may lose because there's a cost to doing that, but ultimately our obligation is to maintain the assets of the district that are appropriated from the taxpayers. So I don't know how that would go in, and certainly I can work with Dr. Wilson to see if there is a way to include that. I don't know that it would be a mandatory thing as much as just mentioning that might be a preferred option to have the investments collateralized as much as possible.
Okay,
Thank you for asking, though.
thanks.
Any questions? Very well.
Thank you. Dr. Wilson, this was just a review. We don't need to do any more.
They're already,
They're
these are
there.
the ones that are standing right now. So it's annual review over time.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or discussion on these? Going forward? Okay. Next, we need to go through the scheduling of regular meetings. I'd like to have a motion that we hold school board meetings, continue to hold school board meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 7 PM at the Hampstead Town Hall, as proposed in the 2019-2020 proposed meeting schedule that you all have in front of you. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Do we want to review this at all, and any questions, or,
I do have a comment.
yes?
Do you see in February, the asterisk, the red asterisk? I believe that it's been some practice in the past that if there is a professional development day, you haven't met as a board in some cases. We don't see it as a problem, but we put it on here as just a discussion point. Everybody is in session that day. It's our professional development day, so we are here. It's not like we're off-site. So I don't think that it's absolutely required that we cancel that. I'd like to be able to continue to hold the meeting on that date.
I don't have any issue with holding it.
I don't either.
Anybody else?
We're good.
Okay.
So we'll take the red asterisk off.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, we have to vote.
Yep.
I don't think
There's
that
no
we
more
voted yet.
discussion. All in favor?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is signing of the ethics statements. You have those in your packets. We do have a policy that requires that the board signs these on an annual basis. So if everyone wants to take a minute, you can read over them quickly if you haven't done so, and then sign. And if there are any questions, I guess we can talk about that. Well, I'm
Give
passing.
them to her. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
with
you.
that, we've completed our reorganizational tasks. Can I have a motion to adjourn the reorganizational meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
We're not done. Okay, it is 7:23. I'd like to call to order the regular Hampstead School Board meeting of Tuesday, March 26, 2019. Melissa, can you?
roll call?
Yeah, sure. Let's do roll call. in case
Just
anything-
for the record,
Yeah,
Caitlin Carnell,
here.
David Smith,
Here.
James Sweeney,
Still here.
Karen Yasenka,
Here.
and Emma Johnston,
Here.
and Dr. Wilson.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. First up, we have approval of minutes from the February 19th, 2019 school board meeting. You have both a set of public and non-public meeting minutes, as well as the March 6th, 2019 meeting. Again, we have public and non-public minutes. We'll take a minute to review.
Make a motion to accept the February 19th regular meeting and non-public session, and the March 6th special meeting and non-public session.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. You have
Oh, abstain. Oh, abstain.
any abstentions?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Melissa, do we have any public comments tonight?
Well, we didn't have anyone sign up for public comments tonight, but I just wanted to point out that we have two new faces in our audience tonight. Their names are Travis Henry and Alec Henry, so welcome.
Thank you for coming to observe the meeting. You're both in the Boy Scouts, is that correct? And you're here to just observe a public meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Do you have any questions?
Can you tell us about what you're going to be getting out of this?
So in this for a merit badge, we need to attend town meeting for our citizenship in the community merit badge.
Sorry to put you on the spot, guys.
So currently, I'm working on my Eagle, and this is one of my last merit badges I need. So this is one of the requirements necessary. And my brother's getting there too, so.
Great.
And
Thank you for
just,
having us.
welcome, just so you know, all these people in this table make the decisions about the school systems here
Okay.
in Hampstead. So they make a lot of very important decisions that give you the resources that you need, and, you know, all the other students in the schools as well. So a lot of good work is done in this,
Yeah,
with this
you guys
group.
have done a very good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, administrative reports. Principal
We,
Collins.
yeah, we have the principals, and then Tom Gary is also going to give a report.
Thank you.
First of all, I can vouch, these are fine young men. They spent a few days over in the principal's office at the central school having fun. Good boys. On my report this evening, I don't want to read through the whole report, but I'd like to throw a few highlights at you. One of them is, I'd like to point out that our enrollment has hit 489, which is 20 more than were in the school in October of 2018. So when we talk about a growth throughout the year, it is there. The time capsule did open. I mistakenly left on my desk some photographs to show you. I still have had some kids that ask me, what is a photograph? They don't even know what a photograph is. They're usually seeing it on a screen or something of sort. Moving on down, the destination imagination, our kids did a fabulous job. I'm very proud of the students. I was able to see both our middle school and our central school team on that Saturday. Mrs. Parnell was there because she had one of her crew in it, so it was a wonderful experience. It's a great experience for families and children. I enjoyed it as a dad, and I again relived that moment, and then I could see the families enjoying it. It's just a great experience. Kindergarten and preschool is really going along pretty rapidly here. I said to the board last fall, I don't believe the projection, and the projection last fall said that we should anticipate 53 children in kindergarten. I already have 72 that have registered online, and I have more that didn't bother with the online registration. So I do know that the numbers are significantly more. However, we'll make it work. We can do it within the budget, just so you know. I've talked to my kindergarten team about how we would go about doing that. I don't need to bore you with all the details, but the numbers will work, because I felt that that number was really seriously depressed in the projections. So I think we'll be at our typical 85 that would, by the time the dust settles. The next one is preschool. The preschool registration is moving forward. I did have a meeting with Mrs. Yasenka, because she has been our central school chair, our liaison, to talk to her about some details about what's been going on in the preschool program. And I just did want to let you know that we're working on a plan to change it around slightly. We have a mixture of 3-day and 5-day programs. We did some research over the past year because we've been having difficulties getting parents' meeting times during the day to fit them in, because keep in mind, they have a very high number of students that have lots of meetings, meaning IEPs and other needs, because they are little bitty ones. We've been looking around how other school districts make this work, and one thing that we found is most districts have simply 4-day programs to allow that 5th day for that large incident of meetings with parents and other needs that are part of the program. So we've been working on a transition plan to keep a 5-day program and have a couple 4-day programs and a 3-day program. So we just wanted you to know that we would do this. It has minimal impact upon the budgeting. If anything, it might reduce some of the hours we may need for some of the support staff. But it will also put us in a position that we're pretty much a constant with other districts around here. So Dr. Wilson and I have worked significantly on this with Karen Gallagher and the preschool team. Just wanted to let you know there. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them. A few other things that have been going on at the school. We definitely want to highlight that the Wax Museum was a knock it out of the park this year. I know some of the people here were there that day, and that's actually one of my personal highlights throughout the year. The children research, and they assumed the role of being, and of course they get really serious at their whole thing, and you two guys probably remember playing your Wax Museum. But it was fascinating to see the choices of the children this year. It was a great thing. We did have our professional day on March 20th. This is the day in the collective bargaining agreement where teachers, they determine what they would like to work on that day with their professional work. They work through the principals with an approval process. And once again, I'm very proud of what the teaching staff did, some fabulous pieces. They had a lot of groups that were working on some professional learning community work, working on some curriculum, someone working on some scope and sequence. We had a couple people go off-site to take a look at what other programs do. It was a very, very effective day. And I got a stack of papers this tall to sort of document what did happen. So I think our teaching staff did a fabulous job. I did want to make sure you mark your calendar for April 4th, because that is the multicultural event. That's another biggie at the Hampstead Central School. And the countries this year are France, Greece, Mexico, Switzerland, and Thailand. And I've been walking through the art room and other places and see what's going on. All I can say is go see it for yourself. It is a wonderful thing happening. The last one is that Eddie's thing, just so you know, we are going to be having an on-site visit on the morning of April the 8th. That is the date that was given to us. So there will be some visitors from the state Eddie's committee that will be hanging out in Central School to see how far we go in this process. If anything, it's been a great experience for us to look at our school and figure out all the cool things that are happening.
Mr. Collins, could you just explain what the Eddies are for Mr. Smith, who's kind of new to this process?
The Eddies is the New Hampshire version of an awards event where they bring in and they celebrate an awful lot of things that happen in the education community throughout the state. As part of this is when, like, you know, the principal of the year, the teacher of the year, the home ec teacher of the year, all these various professional organizations that recognize individuals would be receiving awards. They also have a team from the Eddies committee that looks at specific schools around the state of New Hampshire. And the process with the Eddies is they ask a school to apply with a simple application, and we did that. Dr. Cheney and I just around Christmas said, let's just see what happens. It'll give us a chance to sort of talk about our school and learn more as we do. And we got a call right away. Yeah, come on in. We want a presentation. We did a presentation to a committee. We went up to Southern New Hampshire University. That committee looked at our group, and then shortly thereafter, we got an email, yes, we want to come and visit your school. And that means we are one of the candidates for what will be considered the New Hampshire Elementary School of Excellence. Both of our schools in Hampstead have actually won this award in the past. I know some of our sister schools in the Timberline District have won this as well. It's a nice honor. We were a runner-up one year, so yeah, you get to go to a meeting with people from all over the state at a big place. They usually do it at, I don't know, like the center of New Hampshire or something. And it's a fun way for us along the way to reflect upon all the things that are happening in our school. And you also get to meet with other educators and learn about, you know, their perspective on what we're doing. So the on-site is a 3.5-hour morning visit, and we're going to lean upon our kids to talk about our school again. So actually, it's about an hour and a half of that. We want them just talking to our kids. And the rest of the time, we'll just let them wander around and see our school. We'll do a couple formal things and a couple panels, but, so our kids are great. If we win it, that would be great. We'll get a bell. I got a bell in my office, so it's fine. But thank you. Any questions?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell me more about the involvement of Destination Imagination?
What it is?
Well, how does the school work with that? How does that work?
Well, first of all, it is a school-based competition where you send teams from your school, and they have various levels of teams. You have teams that are the youngest level, the primary level, which is non-competitive level, and then the upper elementary level, which is a competitive level. I think the grade markers are 3, 4, and 5, if I remember. And then there's a middle school level at 6, 8, and there's a high school, and there actually is a college level too. And New Hampshire has a statewide organization that sponsors these events around the state, and our students went to a regional competition, which just happened to be at Manchester Memorial High School. And basically, when the kids go, they're prepared to do 2 major events that day. One of them is they've been given a problem-solving thing in advance. Our children chose, from Central School, a challenge where they had to actually support a weight, so it was kind of more of a STEM physical challenge there. At the same time, they also had to do a little production to tell a story. And they're given sort of a thematic thing to do with the story. So, and then the other thing that happens is a spontaneous event where the children are given they're given a problem in a room with just the children and judges, and they're asked to sort of solve this problem. And it could be a verbal problem, it could be create a skit, it could be tell a story, but they're given a very limited time frame. And it's really a nice problem-solving piece. Hampstead, it typically has it run by some parents. And I know this year it was all run by parents. One of them happened to be a teacher at the Central School named Wise Carver. But yes, but I know she actually did it when she was younger. And I know there's some generations that have done it. This is the second or third generation have done it. It's a wonderful program. It's very similar to a program that used to be called Odyssey of the Mind. And then New Hampshire stepped away from the Odyssey of the Mind and moved to the Destination Imagination. Hampstead has a long history here. We've actually had many teams over the years that have gone to the highest level competition, which is, they've been doing it in Tennessee. Is that where they do it? Yeah, and their kids, there are teams from all over the world that fly in to do this competition. Primarily American, but yes, they do come from other countries.
Great, thank you.
There's a website if people would like to see it. It's literally nh/di.org. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome, Mr. Smith. Nice to have you in the nest. I just want to tell you that Alec was one of our participants in Destination Imagination. I figured I'd continue with that stream. And they performed last Saturday, and they competed. And we were very, very lucky. We had Mr. Ken Pavlini and Mr. Merritt that contacted me in the fall and said, we'd really like to get a DI team going at the middle school. And they did it on a shoestring and a prayer. We were able to help them out a little bit financially with some of the things that they needed. And they had theirs was part of, it was, what was it? It was On Target. It was the technical portion of that at Manchester Memorial High School, which is where I taught before I became an administrator, so it was nice to be on my home grounds. And they had a drone, and they had a challenge, and they had some artwork, and they almost took one of the judges out, and we all we all laughed, and it was a really nice opportunity. And they know what they need to do for next year, and there was all grades represented in the DI team, so we can see this going on in perpetuity, right, Alec? It was really good. So congratulations, you guys did a very, very fine job.
Did we carve out budget for them for this?
We haven't, because there hasn't been, Odyssey of the Mind went away, and then DI, but it wasn't a high-ticket piece, so I was able to afford it within, but it could be going forward, so thank you. I just wanted to share with you that we have a Teacher of the Year nominee for the state of New Hampshire. Her name is Mrs. Kate Kuchar. She's a 7th grade mathematics teacher. She will be presenting at a ceremony on April 1st. That's held through the Department of Education. I'll be with her. There'll be a presentation of her She's presenting on what makes her special as an educator, how she connects with students, and how she uses data to drive her instruction and student performance. She's a gem, and I'm very proud of Mrs. Kuchar. So I hope you'll send her good vibes with you on April 1st. On the American Legion Oratorical Competition, we want to congratulate Lydia Hong and Emma Gordon, who won for the Hampshire Middle School level of that competition. On Saturday, this past Saturday in the library, they were at the district level, and both of them placed. Lydia placed first, and Emma placed second, and they both move on to the state competition at St. Anselm's College on April 13th, and I will keep you updated on their presentations. Thank you. You know, if any of you came out to the musical, I'm just skipping back, going down to the Rock of Ages. We had that this past weekend on the same weekend as Oratorical. So you can imagine our kids were very, very tired after production week, the production on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and all that set has to come down ready for gym on Monday. So there was a lot of effort. Parents were fantastic with volunteering in sewing things last minute, making costumes, making sets, the photography, the lighting, there was so much involved, and I know Mrs. Parnell, you were there to enjoy, and Dr. Metzler was there. He was the biggest fan. It was a lot of fun. The 80s came alive. Bon Jovi, Pat Benatar, Twisted Sisters, Steve Perry, Poison. The kids were not even, a thought in our minds at that age, but those of us that were there were interviewed by the kids for some integration. It was like intervention. They were talking about our hair and the big hair and what was happening culturally, artistically, and that was 2 weeks of a STEM activity and extension project that our 5th and 6th graders did under the guidance of Mrs. Mayu and our UA team. We had 200 parents come in on Friday to enjoy all of their projects. It was just a blast, and we blasted the 80s tunes throughout the day, appropriately, with a lot of instruction going on, absolutely. And in starting off our day, we started this thing called Get Fit in 5, and Mrs. Rubin would get all of the school to do a physical activity with warm-ups and challenging exercises, just get our blood moving at 8:05 a.m. And the kids they groaned a bit at first, and then it really was fun and got us moving and ready to learn. So we had a lot going on. We received our nation's report card. It's called NAEP testing. It's the National Assessment of Educational Progress testing. Our students, our 8th graders, were randomly selected, and Mr. Robert Mayu was the one that handled all the scheduling of that. The visiting staff that came in from NAEP said again and again how respectful our students were and ready and willing to participate in something that is collective of our work throughout all schools in our nation. So kudos to Mr. Mayu and to our 8th graders. Next, we had our personal learning plans. We have been working together in small groups. This is our 4th time that we've met this year, working on our personal learning plans. And I work with a group of 7 students who I've just adore. And we get to really talk about mindsets, growth mindset, fixed mindset, what are our academic challenges, what are our academic plans for the year, how are we going to get there, and we do it in a very safe setting. Sometimes there's munchkins, sometimes there's not. And we sit around the table, and really it's a very nice, safe setting for students to dream and to parse out how they're going to get there, academically and personally. So that was the 4th time this year. We have 2 more to go, so that'll make 6 personal learning plan sessions this year. We have our Healthy Food Backpack program. I spoke to you, it seemed, at Christmas time, where we did so much work for helping people in need. And we received our first delivery from St. Anne's Food Pantry, And Julie Barbick, our social worker, has been instrumental in communicating with community members and staffing this program for people in need. And these are backpacks that will go home with students for the weekend. And we're off to a great start in our Hawks of Service. It's an in-school group. It has been collecting food and personal hygiene products, and to add to our larder. So we're off to a good start. On Thursday, March 14th, our students at Hampshire Middle School displayed their art at the Stockbridge Theater at Pinkerton Academy. It was a beautiful art show. Mrs. Joseph, our assistant principal, was an art teacher before she became an administrator, so the two of us went over and cheered our kids on, and it was stunning. The visual arts of watercolors, sketching, the artwork that comes out of Mrs. Downey's class was pretty spectacular. So kudos to our visual artists. New England League of Middle School. As you know, we've been a spotlight school for many, many years, and to be a spotlight school, you have to demonstrate a record of effective teaching and learning for young adolescents and consistently implementing middle-level best practices. Our application for consideration has already been submitted. We have a team from New England League of Middle Schools that will be doing a full-day visit on April 17th, and they will be meeting with small pockets of individual parents, staff, administrators, students, and just get a feel for our school and see if we are worthy of that honor once again. I'm confident we will. Do you have any questions? Alrighty, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Zanola. Yeah, Tom's. Mr. Geary is up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to update the board on a issue we had over at the Hampstead Central School last week regarding the domestic hot water. So at approximately 6 a.m. last Thursday, the 21st of March, our maintenance and custodial staff, when they were turning on the building, going through, getting everything ready, discovered a water leak in the boiler room at the Hampstead Central School. They immediately responded. They turned off the valves to isolate it and detect where it was coming from. And it was determined that it was an expansion tank off of the domestic hot water system. So in summary, the building was without hot water for 3 to 4 hours. It took our contractor about an hour to respond. They got there around 7:30 a.m., replaced that expansion tank, and took a little bit to get the hot water going, but everything ended well. So, I mean, kudos to our maintenance team for their quick response. Also, I happened to be on vacation that day, and big thank you to Mr. Dowd. It's a testament to how, we have a good team and we step in for each other. So he was able to arrive on scene too and assess any damages. So moving forward, using that as a learning experience, we will be installing leak detection devices in the boiler rooms at both schools, both the middle school and the central school, and also the water rooms. We'd rather find out about these issues at 2 in the morning rather than 6 in the morning, so we can make the determination whether or not we have to cancel school. So that'll be one important step moving forward that'll help us out. We also discovered through this that one of the water reservoir tanks at the central school is probably due for replacement. It's one of the older there's 3 tanks, so one of 3. We're getting quotes back. You should have the numbers in early next week to go ahead and replace that. To do so, we have to wait till the building is vacant because we have to cut the water for the building, both hot water and cold water. So those are the steps moving forward. Happy to answer any questions regarding that.
No, you had a problem and you took care of it as usual. Thank you very much.
Nope, my pleasure. Also, while I'm up here, I was going to ask a question regarding waiving bid policy for a project. I can wait and Dr. Wilson can do it under administrator's reports, or I can try to wrap it up while I'm up here. It's your call.
I'm okay with doing it now.
Okay. Previous meeting, the board graciously accepted a donation from the Toscano family for the central school to make some playground improvements. So what I'm asking is for the board to waive policy DJE, which is the competitive bidding policy. And I'm asking that because we have a certain manufacturer, Landscape Structures, that has installed the other playground equipment at the central school. So in order to make sure that everything matches and we have the same people servicing all of the equipment, I'm asking to just go directly with them as a vendor. So that would require the board to waive policy DJE, and I'm asking for that to not to exceed $25,000.
I make a motion that the board waive policy DGE in this particular instance.
Is it J?
J, did you
J.
say?
DJ. Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I think it makes sense.
Right,
I
yeah.
think it makes sense so that everything matches, and it's a vendor that we've used before anyway.
Yep,
so-
and just for the board's knowledge too, is I've checked their pricing against other vendors, and it's all in line. So you should feel comfortable making that decision.
What are you doing, Tom? What's the scope of the work? What are
The
you
scope of the
gonna add?
work, I described briefly at the time of the donation. We'll be installing a 3-bay swing set, a 2-bay swing set, and then also what they call an oodle swing, right? So it's a cooperative play swing. So picture a big disc mounted to the steel posts, and I think you can fit 4 to 5 kids on at the same time for cooperative play. Seen it at playgrounds, it's a big hit. I think the kids at the central school enjoy it.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just point out, even though Doris and Karen aren't here, and Dr. Dancy, Karen Gallagher's report for special education, again, this is just, it's a testament to her leadership. If you look, there are 2 indicators here. One is indicator 11. Again, the New Hampshire Department has determined that the Hampstead School District has 100% compliance during that reporting period. Again, that's another indicator of, the seriousness we take in terms of the process. The same as there was a visit to another, one of the sites where our students go, and they had to do a file review from one of our students, and again, 100% compliance in that file. And that's an out-of-district placement. So, we're very proud of the work and the seriousness that they take in terms of the special ed paperwork and the compliance, as well as all the things that they do for the students outside of that. So, and there's some more information about, if you really want to read about the indicators, the details are there.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Next,
I just wanted to let our new board member know, it's our practice that we haven't asked all the administrators to be here at every meeting, but as you know, you get this material in advance, so you can look at it at home. If there's anything in there that you would like additional information on or something, you can contact Dr. Wilson and ask for that information, or ask that the administrator be here to clarify or to present.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, you can also go through Caitlin as well, as the chair. Thank you.
next up is Emma. You have
Okay.
an update on Pinkerton for us?
Yes, so Singing in the Rain was performed by Pinkerton players, and that was a success. I was able to go Friday night, and it was really great. Hampstead's Michael Hughes was the lead as Don Lockwood, and they also performed Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon of this past weekend, so that was really great. Tomorrow, sophomores and juniors have to take the PSATs and the SATs. The college fair is April 11th, and it's in the Hackler Gymnasium. It is recommended that sophomores and juniors attend. Over 100 post-high school options will be in attendance, including military, trade schools, gap year programs, and 2- and 4-year colleges. Spring sports are also starting up. Tryouts were all of last week, and the teams have been made. Schedules are posted on the Pinkerton website, and I will keep you all updated with how these teams do. April 13th, the 2021 class office, which is my class, will be hosting their annual Easter egg hunt, and this is open to all of the public. There will be games, crafts, an egg hunt, and the Easter bunny, so if you know anybody that would be interested in that. And the Reverse Career Fair is also April 11th. The fair is for students to set up a table and introduce themselves to potential employers or internships, and they will approach the students and ask them about themselves. This is a great opportunity for students to find a job or internship to prepare them for the future and what they want to do. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
I have one question about that
Yes.
reverse fair.
Yes.
How many students are we talking about that sets up these tables? Is that a club? Is that a grade? I was just kind of curious.
I never went to it. I heard about it, and it's on the Pinkerton website, and I think there's a contact on there.
Okay. Thank you, Emma.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, next up is the district financials review, I believe, Mr. Dowd.
Good evening again. For those of you who don't know me, and I'm sure everyone does, I'm Jeff Dowd, the district CFO and business administrator, more for the simulcast viewers at home. I learned something new today. I learned that the senior Mr. Henry could change a number of shades rather quickly when he's put on the up to speak. I don't know if you guys noticed that. That was great. I have a memo that I've included that you guys should have in the, or you all should have in the, in your packet relating to revenue and expenditure reports. It's good practice. I'll include these reports in your board packets as they become available on a monthly basis. And you have a report now for January and for February, and I'll call your attention just to the February report. First page shows revenues. The remainder of the pages will show expenditures. And as you'll see in the memo, I note that the GL budget column, that very first column on that report, is the budget for the year with transfers. The range to date column is the amount spent in the period and the range. The range in this case, if you look toward the top of the report, it says a from and to date, and it says on the February report it's 2/1/19 to 2/28/19, so that range to date speaks to the money that was spent or generated during that range. Year to date obviously is the complete year to date information, including the current month. Balance shows the balance to budget. If you're looking at the revenue report, it's probably not a great report to be looking at in that way. If you wanted to look at the expenditure report, you'll see that the balance is the general ledger budget minus the year-to-date number, giving you a total remaining balance. The next column is the encumbrance column, and anything that's encumbered is money that we have not spent, but we have been obligated to spend. The district has obligated itself to spend, and that has been included for budget review purposes. And the last column, which says budget balance, shows the actual, I shouldn't say the actual, but the remaining budget after taking out our actual expenditures and any future encumbrances that we have. So should you have any questions on this report, I may not be here every month, but if you have any questions on the report, certainly I'm more than happy to attend the meetings and let you know any questions or concerns that you may have. Are there any questions on the reports? No. Well, I will have a couple things for you then that I do have questions on, if I may. The first is, I have a request for our, when we put our budget together last year for our Pinkerton tuitions, we were off between regular education and special education. So we have a little bit of surplus in special education, which we'll need for regular education. So I'd ask that you allow a transfer as per board policy from the special education line, which is Fund 100, Function 1200, Object 563, the amount of $120,000, to the Fund 100 regular education line, Object Code 563. So basically, I'm taking budgeted Pinkerton tuition from special education, which we don't think will be needed, and moving it to the regular education side.
Made a motion for that?
I don't know if I can repeat it.
Well, I tell you what, I have another one that I will review with you real quick as well, and maybe I can put it together in one neat motion, and maybe someone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the other is to, and Melissa's probably going to kill me because I didn't have the account numbers for this one. The next one relates to moving up to $30,000 from the Function 100, the Fund 100, Function 1200, 112 line, which is our special education salaries line, to the Fund 100, Function 1200, Object 330 line, which is our outside services. We have had a reduction in hours to meet the needs in the district relating to staff, which we're making up rather efficiently on outside services. So I simply need to move it from the salaries line to the
Contracted,
to the outside services line,
contracted services?
contracted services line, yeah.
Okay, I believe, I've been told we do have to do this in 2 separate motions.
Do you?
You don't have to, but I thought for ease of understanding
that's
each
fine.
one, perhaps you might want to do it by
Fine
each
with
one, so you could have a discussion, that's all.
Okay,
So if you were to make a motion on the first one, it would look something like a motion to approve moving $120,000 from Function 1200, 563 to Function 1100, 563.
So moved.
yep,
Got that one.
second.
All right.
Okay, do we have discussion on that? Let's keep these completely separate. Do we have any discussion on that movement of funds? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
That was done.
Perfect. And the next one, if we were to look at in a similar way, would be to approve moving budget of up to $30,000 from Function 1200, Object Code 112, to Function 1200, 330.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Any
Thank you.
discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you. And if I may, one more quick thing. Do you have in your packet another memorandum from my office?
The Primex
Yes, you do.
is there.
Excellent. I'm delighted by that. We have been offered participation in the CAP program, which is the Contribution Assurance Program, with Primex. Primex is our risk management company, which is one of the things that I said I would talk about a little later on, and that's now. So Primex is our, for all intents and purposes, our insurance carrier, and they have offered us a not-to-exceed percentage of 7% of the prior year contribution for a commitment of 3 subsequent years. I have provided for historical purposes what those increases have looked like. The rating is based largely on claims, so I think we've done a pretty good job on our property and liability coverage to be in the range of 4% up, 4% down, 3% up, 3% down, 12% down. Primex is our risk management pool, of which we're a member. A lot of other municipalities are as well. I don't know that the board necessarily specifically has the authority to bind future boards. However, for the purposes of this matter, Primex offers some very unique, exceptionally unique circumstances to the district and to a lot of municipalities within the state that it seems unlikely we would go with anyone else. They're not an insurance company per se. We are part of a risk management pool with a lot of other municipalities and governmental agencies. They offer us a lot of training and training programs. They've been exceptionally helpful in the past. And one other thing to keep in mind, it's a little bit tricky, but as a governmental organization, the district enjoys what we'll call a municipal immunity, and that means that we're immune from certain damages should they accrue against the district for even something as simple as just basic negligence. When we go through another insurance company that's not in a risk management pool, we are considered to be insured, and we still enjoy municipal immunity, but only up to our insurance policy coverage. Working with Primex, we enjoy that municipal immunity, period, because we're not considered necessarily insured, we're considered to be part of a risk management pool. So they operate in a similar way to an insurance company, but we do receive a lot of benefits from Primex. Don't necessarily see us moving away from them in the near future. I don't know what the future is going to hold for I really hope that we're able to continue to control our liability exposure in the future, and hope that we wouldn't be in a situation that we would be exceeding 7%. I simply provide this information for the board. I don't think that it's going to increase our policies at all. It just caps it. But it does require that three-year obligation. If it's something you're interested in, that's fine. If not,
Just have a few questions. So it's a program for coverage for a period of 3 years, right? But the 7% maximum increase currently available for the cap period does not apply to any other year or period of years. And upon expiration of the cap period. So it's going for 3 years, but the cap's only for 1 year? I'm not clear.
no, I think what that's referencing is that if we were to participate in the program this year, it may not impact our current year ratings, our current year premiums. If we were to participate in the program up through 2023, we wouldn't necessarily enjoy any cap, maximum cap beyond that. So you can see on the first page of the Primex handout itself, it does show that from fiscal year 21, it's a maximum 7% increase over the 19 through 20, which is coming up, and then 22 to a subsequent period. You'll see that it's a year, basically a year in arrears.
Yeah, I'm just reading the second paragraph from the bottom. And I guess I'm just confused. I mean, it says, the Hampstead School District agrees that the 7% maximum increase currently available for the cap period does not apply to any other year or period of years. So that's kind of contradictory to what they're saying.
I'm thinking there's any other
Right.
years other than those which have been indicated.
I'm just saying that that's not real clear, that's all. It's-
Karen?
Contractually, that's not clear.
They're in the insurance business.
Huh?
They're in the insurance business, they're in the risk management business. If they made it clear, I think someone would be asking a lot of questions. Why is this so clear?
Yeah, but somebody has to sign this.
So, from my understanding, the benefit to Primex is that we enter a 3-year commitment.
Correct.
The benefit to us is it caps at 7%. Do we typically, in the past, is it a 1-year agreement that we?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah. And again, it's,
that's the difference.
yeah, and it's unlikely, just because of the exceptionally unique product offering that they're able to offer for us, it's unlikely we'd go anywhere else. It just we would be exposed to liability if we were to go through like Liberty Mutual or any of the other major carriers, AIG or anything. Their rates have been very reasonable. If it is something that the board is interested in, the Primex has requested that the resolution on page 3 of the Primex document be adopted.
Is there a time limit in terms of this offer?
I think they typically like to get these wrapped up before the end of April, and if it's something that you wanted to extend, I'm sure they'd be happy to extend it.
Do you want to study this and do a little research and then maybe bring it back at the next meeting and have more of a discussion about it?
We can do that. Dr. Metzler, would you like to?
I think the important piece to look at this is if you look at maximum exposure, so you're looking at 21% compounded over 3 years, right? 7% on top of 7% on top of 7% is potentially what could happen. That's a tough sell looking at the history of the last 5 years.
Right, I mean,
I was going to ask the same thing, is that we've never gone 7%.
Nope.
Right, so.
Nope. Because this is tied to liability claims, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
So if we did have an event that resulted in an increase in liability, we could feel that relatively quickly in the premium structure. So I don't want to say we've been lucky or fortunate. I think we've worked very hard to make sure that our liability can be curtailed. So.
And is this something that they offer kind of on a rolling basis? So if we didn't sign this year, would they come back and have this proposal for another 3 years going forward?
We really need to be in a risk sector that supports their willingness to enter into this type of agreement. So in short, if we continued on our good, ratings, I would think that they would extend it again next year. So even if we didn't enter it into it this year, and we were able to maintain our rating status, they probably would offer it again next year. I can't guarantee that. But if we developed significant claims over the next year or so, it's unlikely that they would extend it.
Is this something new that Primex is offering, or is this something they've been doing right along?
Primex has offered this type of thing in the past, and I've been a little bit dubious of it because of the fact that we just haven't had 7% increases.
Yeah.
But they've come back. I haven't heard any complaints from any other business administrators in the state on their participation in the program, which gives it a little bit more credibility on my end to be able to offer it to the board as at least an option. I think you're right. We just aren't at 7%. We aren't near 7%. We're down from where we were in this history.
How long have we been using Primex?
We've been using Primex for probably as long as,
They've been in existence, I
yeah,
think.
probably that they've been in existence.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a unique risk management pool for municipal entities. And the purpose of it, I think, is to take away a little bit of that, not necessarily the profit, but that excess, premium that you would normally pay to an insurance company to run it through an efficient risk management pool. I will share that we did have an incident in a sister district where there was some liability claimed, and it was nothing more than what would have been considered negligence, and involved an injury. Long story short, the aggrieved party sued the district, and Primex was able to come in because of our municipal immunity and have the matter essentially dismissed. If I'm not mistaken, it was dismissed, I believe. So if we were with a traditional insurance carrier, that traditional insurance carrier would have to litigate that issue, which ultimately does cost the district time and resources. We then wouldn't be liable necessarily. The insurance company would have to pay up to their policy limits. So it's a very favorable program, and that's one of the reasons I think we've been with them for so long, and one of the aspects that makes it very favorable to stay with them as well. Their premiums have been reasonable.
Question on, are there any competitors with Primex? Are they really the only ones?
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations?
On the one hand, I don't think we're going to be leaving Primex anytime soon because of that fantastic liability shield, that protection that we get, that's been proven in court. Their ratings are very, very good. If this went out to RFP, I can almost guarantee that another insurance company would come in, underbid, try and get the business for a couple of years. I think we'd be exposed. I think the rates would probably go up. I think it's very difficult to be competitive with Primex on the long term. And Primex also offers a number of trainings that we don't find anywhere else in the state. So for example, playground safety. It's not about students running around and running too fast. It's about having our staff be aware of what looks like or what could be defective equipment, or what those aspects are to look at for playground safety. For example, they offer a number of different programs that are just so unique to our space that they've been a very good partner with the district for a number of years.
So, do we want to move this to give it some time for us all to think about it and move it to our April meeting?
I do have one more question, maybe for Dr. Wilson, is can we enter into a 3-year agreement?
You can, but whether it will be sanctioned by a future board, I think that's always the question.
Okay.
It might be a legal question down the road, but
Okay.
I've seen it done before.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, with this, I don't believe that it would be allowed for the board to enter into any sort of contract that did not allow for budgetary restrictions. So if it wasn't in the budget, let's say, it would be something that you wouldn't be able to pay for. But in this case, we're going to have property liability in the budget, period.
Mm-hmm.
So even you really couldn't even escape it based on a budgetary concern. I say escape it, that wouldn't really be cause.
So I'll put this question out. Do we want to move it? Do we want to do some sort of vote now, or is there no interest in potentially entering into the agreement?
2 questions. Are there any other contracts we entered that span school boards?
Yes.
So we don't make a decision not to enter that contract because,
You've done school buses. right?
Right.
What are our other contracts?
Food service,
Food service,
even though that's renewable, I mean, that renews every year.
renewable, teacher contracts,
Teacher
but that's
contracts.
spelled out per year.
Right, so that answers that. So what's your
So it
recommendation?
can be
Sign it
done.
or not?
I will point out to your question on page 2, the next major paragraph, it starts out with Primex acknowledges the Hampstead School District, so on and so forth. It does speak there that if appropriations are not voted at meeting, although we're legally required to carry insurance, essentially the contract may be terminated. My position on it is, we've been pretty fortunate that our rates have not gone up. I have no way of gauging what our exposure could be in the future. And why not? If you can do a guarantee of 7% for 3 years, not more than 7% for 3 years, in the event that we had a major claim, at least we'd have some protection. If we were looking to go to another vendor or purveyor, I wouldn't recommend locking in based on our track record, but I don't think it's going to harm us.
What do you think? I would say at this point, move it to making a decision at the April 9th meeting.
What other information are we going to get?
I think it would be more thinking about it if anyone needs to
I'm not going to think about it.
mull it over.
I'm not bringing this home to think about it. He recommends it. The
Anybody else?
contact thing was answered. Is there any financial, like, you get a contract with the oil company to hedge your bet on the oil price, you pay for that. You pay a premium. Is there a difference in price?
The only thing that I
They're
worry,
just really trying to lock people in for 3 years.
I think they're looking for the commitment, because I don't necessarily think that Primex looks at us and says, from a market perspective, what's the most that we can get out of this customer before we lose them? They look at what their pool looks like, what our claim structure looks like, and they come up with our assessment for the year. I don't think that they look and say, well, we've got them locked in at 7, so that means that we can do an increase of 6. It's just not how this risk management pool works. It's not, on the commercial side, that would be the way that it works in some degrees. You've got your ratings and all the actuarial work that they do, but then the ultimate question is, how much can we charge before we lose this customer? That's not how Primex works. If that were the case, I'd be concerned that we're locking ourselves into some sort of an increase that's not to exceed 7%, but right up to 7% a year. If we have claims, we'll be at 7. If we don't, we may go down.
Anybody else? Jim wants to vote now. Right?
I don't see why
Make a
not.
motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, make the motion.
Make a motion to accept, what am I accepting? To commit to a 3-year term with Primex, the cap of 7% per year over 3 years.
As defined in the memo.
As defined in the memo dated March 25th, from Jeff Dowd to Dr. Wilson.
Give a second.
Discussion. I'll second it for discussion. On your memo, it says Primex will require an affirmative vote on the board. Got it. And also require specific language be adopted by the board. What's that specific language?
That's
It's-
our last page.
Yeah, it's the last page.
It's the last page that we have to do too.
So a motion has been made and seconded, but if you wanted to maybe amend the motion to include, without necessarily even having to read it, the resolution to enter Primex as indicated on the third page of the agreement, at least we have it for the record.
Jim, do you want to amend it?
Do I want to amend it?
Yeah, so you have to amend your motion.
You don't have to read it, just reference it.
Yeah.
I amend my motion to include the resolution to enter Primex Property and Liability Contribution Assurance Program, CAP.
Do you have to re-second? Does she have to second it again?
Second the amendment,
I have to second the amendment.
discussion. Vote on the amendment.
Do you second the amendment?
Yes, I'm seconding the amendment.
Do we have discussion? Okay.
Vote on the amendment.
Oh, right, okay, we have to vote to accept your amendment. Okay.
Favor of the amendment.
This is hard
All
work
in-
for you guys, I know.
I'm sorry. All in favor of the amendment?
Okay. So
Okay.
now the motion has been amended. Now you go return to that.
So now, any discussion on the amended motion? Any more questions or?
No.
No? Okay. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor?
3,
All opposed?
1,
Motion.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on anything that I covered tonight? Good?
No?
If you need signatures,
Yes? I will.
you'll have to get them from Caitlin.
Caitlin, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now we're on to policies first read. So we're looking at the first read for policies EGA, GBEF, JICL, IJNDB, JLD, JLIA, JIBA, CA, EEAE, EHAB, JQ, and JICE. So this is first read of those policies.
And just for Mr. Smith's benefit, in terms, this policy packet has gone through policy committee already.
Okay.
What you see before you, usually if it's in blue and has been striked out or stricken out, those are the changes that are coming out.
Yep.
And a lot of times, what you see is school board policies, it's their sample policies.
Okay.
So most of the time we go with them, sometimes we do customize and revise those as well. Okay.
Thank you.
We give you on the front sheet kind of the changes overall, what you see. Just for an example, EGA is something we've had on the books for a while, but now under the new data governance plan that has come through with the change in privacy, they're recommending that we have 2 different policies, one that covers staff, and that's in the staff policy section, and one that covers students, and that's in the student section. So those 2 new ones have been added, but we need to repeal EGA,
Yeah.
and that's why you'll see those added here. And this is a requirement of that governance plan.
Got it.
I have a motion to,
I make a motion that we accept on first read the 12 policies that were read by the Madam Chair.
have a second?
Second.
All in
Any
favor?
discussion?
Oh.
Any discussion or questions
I
on
think
this?
just in process, we do a first read this meeting. That gives anybody an opportunity, any of you, any public members, if they have any questions, they can contact us. We bring it to the second read. Sometimes we do another revision, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
The second read is when they are approved.
Okay.
All right, so we still have time. You still have time to look at some of these things. We can bring them up at the next meeting. It's always good to do it, to let us know ahead of time.
Yep.
So that we can be ready with some of the answers.
Okay.
I think you also need to know the policy, there's a policy committee meeting that meets, I believe it's the 3rd Tuesday of every month. This is where these are generated and where the changes are made. So what Dr. Wilson is referring to, you would need to tell the policy committee that you have a concern
Okay.
on one of these.
And sometimes these might be remanded back to the policy committee with certain questions, or sometimes they're accepted. Sometimes we make revisions right at the meeting as well.
Perhaps Mr. Smith would like to be on the policy committee?
Well, those things are coming up at your next meeting.
Yes.
So you have to think about it, because right now, because that policy committee does contain teachers, we do have it during the day.
Right.
And it's very difficult for board members who work full-time. I understand that. If we do have to change the time of a policy committee meeting, we'd have to give notice so that we could get the people there after school hours.
So everyone be thinking about that for our next meeting, about what you might want to do. Different committees,
Or not do.
liaisons. I'm sorry?
Or not do.
Or not do, that's fine too.
But that really is a possibility, right, Dr. Wilson? There are other districts, there are policy committee meetings meet in the evening, sometimes
Yes.
prior to
Board,
board meetings, so the staff's available.
right. Well, administrators are available, not always teachers, but again, we'll have to work that through. It's a change in practice, that's all.
Okay. Okay, so do we have any discussions? We have a motion. All right, I think, all in favor of moving these to second read?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make one more comment? I just see it here. You do see EHAB. That is the data governance plan and security plan that Dr. Dancy's been talking about that we have to have in policy, and then we have the plan. What's to note in here, you will see some procedure. Usually we like to break out our procedures out of our policy. This is really based on law, and when we started looking at trying to break it out, it was very hard to do that because a lot of this is law. And I hated to put it into procedure where people think that they can just revise procedure when we're talking about what's in law. So we decided as a committee to leave it as the policy. And so you will see there are some procedures in here, but it's just because that's sometimes what happens when the legislator passes laws that have timelines in here and processes. So just that's why it's rather long. But we do, bullying is another example where we have a lot of procedure in the bullying law as well. And
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
welcome.
All right, next we have renominations.
Yes, and what I'd like to do this in non-public if possible.
Yes.
I think that I'd like to have a couple of conversations with you about it, and it makes sense to do that because we're always we're talking about reputations of folks.
Okay, so we'll move this to when we go into non-public.
Right.
Next, we have board comments and correspondence. For Mr. Smith, this is when we each can talk about either if you've attended committee meetings or school events. You just fill the board in, and if we have any correspondence, we can discuss that as well. Mrs. Yusenki, you want to start?
Yeah, I received an email from Dr. Farah, who is vice chair of the SAU board. I received this, I'm sharing this with you. She asked that it be shared. Good morning, Mrs. Yusenka. At the TRSB meeting on Thursday, there was discussion regarding the lack of a date for the annual SAU reorganizational meeting. As you are aware, this meeting needs to occur in April, and the SAU has an ongoing search for an assistant superintendent that the SAU board needs to discuss. I would like to propose that the SAU meet on April 10th, 2019. Hopefully, this will give the Hampstead board sufficient time to appoint a new member and still provide for timely consideration of the candidates for the assistant superintendent. Please let me know if that date of April 10th is acceptable to your board. That's true that the SAU board does have to meet in April. We typically have met more around what I call tax day, around the 15th, 16th, or 17th. For whatever reason, Dr. Farah is asking that to see if we're available on the 10th. She asked me to see if that's something the board would like to do. I have one concern with this. We do have to have a reorganizational meeting. I have no issues with that, but the fact that Dr. Farah mentioned the assistant superintendent search, specifically to meet to discuss that, I don't see that as part of our reorganizational meeting that's required. And from what I understand, that was not part of the process, that the SAU board really doesn't need to meet to discuss candidates prior to the day that they are nominated to the SAU board. The way the process rolls out, the next step, I believe, would be the search committee. Dr. Metzler will nominate. You were there last night, so they have three finalists. Will nominate 1, 2, or possibly all 3 to the SAU board, and at that point, the SAU board has the task of either approving or not approving Dr. Metzler's nominees. So that's where I have a problem with the request, because I don't see that the reorganizational meeting would actually be a time to discuss the candidates. Unless for some reason if Dr. Metzler could perhaps have nominees ready on the 10th and we do both the same night, that would make sense to me. But to have a reorganizational meeting and discuss candidates before they've been nominated to the board doesn't make any sense to me.
Dr. Metzler?
If I may. The process, and we talked about the process, we talked about the timeline, and the timeline, the target date was April 15th. I still have to meet with the search committee. That'll be later this week, I believe is Thursday afternoon. And at that time, we may, or I may or may not. So I'm with you, it's a reorganizational meeting. It's not a reorganizational meeting to discuss candidates that haven't been nominated yet to the SAU board. So the April 15th was the target date. We may or we may not have a candidate or 2 candidates or 3 candidates, as you indicated, for April 10th. So I'm not quite sure, about that date. And is it something that if you're looking to do more than one thing at the meeting, it's really 2 meetings, right? It would be like your reorganizational meeting. You'd bring the reorganizational meeting to close, and then you'd open up a second meeting. So I think she might be somewhat confused with asking for the meeting to discuss candidates when it's really a reorganizational meeting. So I agree with Ms. Yasenka. So I don't know if you had any questions about the process.
The only way I could see that actually working, Dr. Metzler, would be not on the 10th, but sticking to the timeline that the search committee had, that would be more April 15th, and then pushing the reorganizational meeting to the 17th, which, like last year, it was the 16th anyway. I don't see the rush to have it on the 10th. If we could have a reorganizational meeting, and then you nominate, we meet the candidates, like you said, as a second meeting, and do it all in one night, it would mean everybody didn't have to go out twice. You don't need a 10th and the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you I'm not available on the 17th. I won't be in New Hampshire. I don't believe it as of today anyway, so I'm not quite sure about that date. But like I said, the 15th was the date where we hope to have a candidate to nominate. So I know we normally meet on Wednesday nights, but it doesn't have to be a Wednesday night. It could be a Monday night, it could be a Tuesday night, not one of our Tuesday nights, but there's other dates to look at. So I think that was the spirit of the contact you to see what date may or may not work for Hampstead. Get back to Kathy Belcher, then she could poll the boards to see what's the best date. But the date that they threw out there was the 10th, primarily because it was a Wednesday, and we customarily would meet on a Wednesday evening.
So I guess it's up to the board if you are available or want to meet to have the reorganizational on the 10th. And then we would still have to come back, and you even said you're not available on the 17th.
Yeah, I'm not saying I won't have a candidate. It was by April 15th. To call a meeting, we're not sure that we're going to have a candidate to recommend or several candidates to recommend on the 10th. We don't know that today. We may know more later this week. That committee could take me in a number of different directions. I don't want to presume anything. I think we need to let the process play out and let the candidates be vetted in the way they've been vetted, and then we'll make the recommendation at that time. But I don't want to call that, if that's the spirit for calling the meeting, I think it's a little premature to call that meeting.
I would agree with that. That's why I brought it up. And our reorganizational meetings typically over the 4 years that I've been on the board, have been around the 16th or 17th. Now, this seems a week early, and for what reason, I'm not sure.
So
So you guys
It's
meet
up
on
to-
Thursday, right, search committee?
The search committee is meeting this Thursday.
This
yes.
Thursday. Why don't we make the call after that?
Well, we won't, what's happening with the search committee on Thursday is Dr. Metzler has not been part of this large search committee that we started with, although he's been involved with secondary interviews. So this 14-member search committee will meet with him for the first time as a whole and give him our recommendations and feedback from our month-plus long search.
And for the public's benefit, you know, there's been a series of interviews. Last night was public interviews. The search committee interviewed. There's been site visits. And then there was finalist interviews with the executive board. So there's quite a bit of information that's being pulled together to really put together a candidate's profile so we can find the absolute best candidate to serve both Hampstead and Timberlane at the SAU level in the assistant superintendent's role. So there's, you know, it's been a very comprehensive, very transparent process. And so I think to rush it at the end, to fit it into a reorganizational meeting may not be the best strategy at this time. It's just, we gotta let the process play out and we'll know more, you know.
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
would like to say, from my personal point of view, I think we need to separate and take the assistant superintendent's nomination out of this and look to the fact that we need a reorganizational meeting. We all agree to that. And I would like to go with, I don't see the urgency to move it up. I'd like to do with what we've done historically, which would be the following week in April. I don't see any reason to move it up a week. There's no urgency.
Yeah, I would say personally, I don't see the need for 2 meetings within a 1-week timeframe is what we'd be looking at. If we're assuming somewhere around the 15th of being ready for a potential nomination. So while I don't have a problem with 2 meetings essentially on the same night to do a reorganizational, I think the 10th is too early. I'd like to see it more on, I'm okay with the 15th. It is a Monday, so we'd have to see about availability, but anybody else have thoughts?
We're supposed to poll just for my,
Oh, right,
my polling vote is.
Right.
Is, no, not April 10th, but perhaps April 15th.
that would be mine as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, for me, I think it's, you know, if we do have a 5th member by that point, it'd be good to have a little bit of time for that 5th member to be sworn in and part of this. So that's where my head went immediately, is like the 10th is, you know, a couple weeks away. It's the day after. Will that person be sworn in and part of this? And I think we should have the 5th member if possible.
Yep. And for the public, we'll be talking about our appointing a 5th member in a few minutes, but yeah, I think that's an excellent point to add to this, so.
I mean, other than that, if we had the 5th member, I would say if we do have a candidate recommendation by the 10th, then great, but just because of the 5th member is where my head is at.
Makes sense.
Okay, so are you going to respond to Dr. Farah? Do I have to respond?
I can do that on behalf of the board if that's your pleasure.
That's fine with me.
That's fine, since it was directed to me as chair, and now you're chair, so if you want to respond, that's fine.
It's simply
Hot
the
potato.
pleasure of the board is the week of the 15th, right,
Yes.
for a reorganizational
Yes.
meeting.
And, you know, I think David's point is good as well, that it gives us time to get a 5th member in place.
We'll be discussing that shortly, and you'll see, hopefully we'll have that 5th member by the 9th, and that
Correct.
only gives a day.
Yep.
Okay, so
Which
Be
really
clear.
means you're at the 15th or the 16th.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right,
to be clear, we'll ask to poll members for the week of the 15th.
yes.
The week of the 15th.
Yeah. 18th would not work because that's a Timberlane meeting that night, but I believe the rest of the nights are open.
Obviously not the 17th, if you're not around at the 17th.
Well, I believe they have a CIP meeting on the 17th that's already been scheduled and posted. I believe that was posted today, so the 17th. So you're looking 15th, 16th.
Yes.
And you're not meeting on the
We
16th.
we
so-
do not meet on the 16th, so
So
we're,
those are probably the two days that might work really well for all things considered.
yep,
Excellent. I'll let them
Maybe
know.
that you get back for those 2 dates, yeah.
okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay, we're still on board correspondence. I've attended multiple events. I was at the Destination Imagination. I attended the Wax Museum, which I would totally agree is one of the highlights of the year. I also attended the musical all 3 nights, and as well as the 80s integration, which was phenomenal. If for nothing else, to see the teachers very enthusiastic about that 80s integration, and the kids loved it. There were some amazing art pieces that they blew up. 80s relics, I guess we'll talk. You know, there was a huge ET that was phenomenal that the kids did. So lots of dancing, and it was a great experience, I think. And I've been participating in the search committee. I think that's all my stuff. Jim, you have anything?
I just went to the Reflections program, which is great, as usual.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm good.
David?
I went to the Wax Museum. I thought it was amazing. I wish I had more time. I wanted to meet all the students. So that was really great. I was impressed last night with the assistant superintendent search and discussion. Thought that was really well, just a lot of good discussion and questions. And then another thank you to Mr. Collins. After being appointed on the board, I got a tour of the school to know a little bit more. Found the rock room. That was interesting. Never heard of that before. So it wasn't where the 80s rock was going on, but it was pretty cool. And you know, being able to see the 60s wing more in person, that was really good to see. The different things that are needed that, you know, I know we'll be talking about at some point and working on for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really good. Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Okay.
I think what I'd like to do is probably go into non-public for personnel. There really isn't a lot of other business that I have to bring forward. I think there is some other business. Do you want to move the other business up first?
Yeah, let's do that first, then we can go into.
That's good.
Okay. You addressed your other business and
Address
correspondence.
mine under board comments, yes.
So what I wanted to address in other business is the fact that we do have an empty seat on the board, and we need to talk about how we're going to appoint a new member for a 1-year term. Starting off, we do have a procedure, BBBCR. I would like to, in the interest of time, have us waive that procedure. It's pretty lengthy, and where we do have important pieces coming up on the SAU level and at just our board level, I would like to shorten the process. So what I would like to propose, I'll say what I would like to propose, and then we can make a motion to waive the procedure if that's in everyone's interest. I would like to propose that we do a 1-week open period of time, starting today and running through next Tuesday, where any interested members of Hampstead who are eligible to be school board members can email me directly and put their name in for consideration. And then so that would be open for 1 week, and then I would propose that at our next meeting, which is April 9th, the board would have a non-public session to go over the names and vote about, if we have more than one person, we can vote on who we're going to appoint, and then we could come out and announce that on the 9th. Any thoughts, or do we want, is everyone okay with waiving the motion, or waiving the current procedure? We can take a vote on that. We want to start there?
I'm good with it because I don't think it's user-friendly. I don't think in a situation like this where you have someone you want to fill a seat for 1 year, you want them to come in and sit publicly and ask questions, and I don't think it's user-friendly, and I think it would deter people from showing up. And again, beware that's the procedure, and we can change that because that's not our policy. Our policy simply follows state law. RSA, I think it's 196 7:26, which simply says the board appoints a qualified person to serve. How we appoint is really up to us. So I would agree that we waive this in the interest of time and making it a more user-friendly process.
Okay, so can I have a motion to waive procedure BBBCR?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's vote on that. All in favor? As far as getting information out about how people should contact, do we need to have a press release or anything? Or is stating it in the meeting enough?
Well, a press release will help get it out there, but that means if you're going to do a press release, sometimes it takes a while to get it into a paper, if you're going to do that. So your 1-week timeline may be very restricted. I would say put it on the website. We
Okay.
can, put a message up there and get it on the website. Anybody going to the website, they'd see it.
Okay,
If there's other ways we can get the communication out as well.
Okay.
But at
I'd like
least,
to get this going, so maybe
Okay.
we'll, as you said, let's not do the press release, but it'll be on the website. Anyone watching who's interested, my email address is on the district website.
you use the district, the hampsteadschools.net?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So it's parnellc@hampsteadschools.net.
Parnell
Or
with
if
an E, double
What?
L. Parnell with
Oh,
an
yeah.
E, double L.
Yes. And if anyone can't find it on the website, please reach out to, I guess, the SAU, and they can direct you. But it should come to me. And so we'll be accepting people's self-nominations, I suppose, until
Letter of interest.
letter of interest, that's fine. So we'll say that we'll accept it through next Tuesday, April 2nd. So,
Do you want to go further than that? Because you don't meet until the 9th. You could accept them until the 4th or the 5th.
all right, let's do the 4th.
Okay. We can also get a notice and have it noticed, in all the town departments and schools that we normally do. That
Okay.
I don't know who reads those notices sometimes, but we can certainly do that as a notice.
As far as letter of intent, what are you asking for from the public?
I
Anything
actually-
specific?
I actually would just say an email that does not need to be a resume or anything like that. I would like to just see, contact me if you're interested in being considered.
Probably with a phone number.
That would be helpful, a phone number and your full name. Beyond that, I think,
And make sure you're qualified, which means you have to be a registered
you do have to be a
voter
registered voter.
in the
Yes.
town of Hampstead.
Yes. Good point. That's it. Okay, so I think we're set there. That was the only thing I had for other business.
The only question I had about that more, and this is, if we're going to vote on the 9th, will we have a chance to talk to them? Are we saying if they'd like to come in before and have a 2-minute, let them talk to us? Like, how would we know the candidates if there's more than one?
My inclination was to say no, not to have them come in, similar to the reason Karen talked about, where I don't know that it's fair to put them up in front of the public and in that aspect. If it's someone we're totally unfamiliar with,
That's where I'm going, is if somebody does step forward, how, me comfortable to vote for one person over another if I don't know one person over another, in case we have more than one?
We're just trying to alleviate what you went through. I remember the year you sat here.
Well, that's part of it, it's just to
I
understand.
remember the reason you sat
Yeah.
here when you were filling another
Yep.
seat, and it was you and a few other people here, and Kathleen Abruzzese was actually chosen at that time, and I just thought it was kind of awkward for people to be sitting there not being chosen publicly.
okay, so how about this? Not a resume. When you email, we don't need a resume. However, if you could give a little bit of background, why you're interested, just a short, why you're interested, maybe anything, other involvement you've had in town. I think that
Okay.
that should, I mean, I imagine that's what we'd get even if we met with them for a couple minutes anyways. That's my thought. Is that okay? Does that work? Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. So then I would think we're done with everything else. So I would like to have a motion to go into non-public under 91A3, paragraph 2. C? C, reputation?
Reputation.
Okay. Okay. Can you poll the board?
Did I get a motion to?
No.
Oh, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded? Thank you, Karen. Mrs. Parnell?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenka?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are we going to be coming out and making a decision? Yes, because Kate, okay. Okay. Cable, you can go home. Flip this off.